Hello, my name is Lorraine from District 32, and I've got the absolute pleasure of having a conversation with Jason Seal of Horizon Digital. How are you, Jason?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. It's nice to meet you in person, or meet you in person. Um, and for those who are listening, Horizon Digital are a software development tech app development company. And we're super delighted because they're doing our app, which will be released in the next week or so, which is very, very exciting. But just to frame this conversation, we're talking about business owners who might be thinking of investing in technology apps. When should we? When shouldn't we? When's it viable? And then, I want to hear some of the exciting things that can be done through AI, right? Because everybody thinks, well, that sounds great, that sounds brilliant, but when does it become, viable and for business owners? So I'm really looking forward to picking your brain
Yeah,
and Jason. So Jason, just give us a rundown. What is Horizon Digital?
sure, yeah. So we're a predominantly a custom software development company. I guess largely we pride ourselves in helping our clients and customers um, beat their competitors, like giving them an edge over their competitors using technology is probably the best way to think of it. So largely, if you imagine if you were, I don't know, a gardener and you had a lawnmower and you had to mow a lawn, if you have the exact same lawnmower as the other gardener, then it only really comes down to the price, maybe a little bit of technique, but largely it's a pretty standard sort of process to mow the lawn. So you're competing only on price. Same thing in our world. So if you're talking about technology, there's off the shelf stuff you can buy. So these are the subscription based stuff. So if you're running a business and your core value stream, you have to buy software to run that or to help with your business efficiency, and you buy that off the shelf, and you have a competitor who buys the exact same thing off the shelf. You often then have to model your own processes to fit the system because they're not going to change it for you, or if you do, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So then you're running the process the same as your competitor does. And so then again, all you're really bidding on is the price because largely the process is the same. Maybe you could argue some quality in there if they're not good at what they do, but if if you're an accountant, you imagine you're doing it to the accounting standards and practices, and so would your counterpart. They're using the same system as you, so you can't do it faster. You can't give them additional view or access into it. You can't give them additional reporting easily out of the box, stuff like that. And so we help people realize what their value stream is and then build them something custom to help so that core part of their business is supported by technology, which then adds value either internally in efficiency or to their customers in additional value, features, functionality, stuff you can sell. Yeah.
Also allows the business, as you said, to carve out a competitive advantage.
Mhm.
In the marketplace, which takes investment.
Yeah, like I think our very first client that we had, they were competing with a large construction company and they were small. They only had, it was him and his wife. And we started from the ground zero and built their system up just little bit by little bit. The first version was only 6 weeks worth of work. But as we built that over the next 2 or 3 years, comparatively, this other large construction company, they had 25 staff working in spreadsheets and they were doing maybe around 300 jobs a day. And so at the time, we're only building up about 60 jobs a day. But as the business grew, because we had a system to manage it, they didn't miss any compliance stuff. They ended up growing to the same size. And so then you imagine you have two FTE technically or two people running the same size business doing the exact same thing that 22 people are doing. And the only difference is one's got a system and one doesn't. And so you imagine you add up the full-time employee cost of every single person you've got there, let's say 20 staff, average 100 grand a year. It's a lot of money. The system doesn't cost anywhere near that much. So as time goes on, you invest in the system up front, you make it to your process. And so with that particular client, we built it from scratch, we ended up having he had a lot more data than his competitors did. So then he was able to start doing custom reports that he would give to his customers to say, oh, look how great this is. That's something the other providers couldn't do. And then he started doing it automatically, started increasing the pay cycles because the system automates a lot of like the job processing, the payments of it. You can then say to subcontractors and contractors, well, we'll pay you weekly now because I don't need to wait until I invoice this person to do all this because I've got such a good process in place. I'm pretty confident in this. So now all of a sudden you're the preferred people want to work for. And so you're actually covering all of that out. And that's largely just by having automation, I guess, in your business around your core business value and purpose.
I think that there's some really great points in there. Yes, around the automation, but also around that, if you want to stay still in your business, then stay still. But if you're looking at scale, you have to look at the most efficient way of doing that instead of scaling your problems with you.
Big time. Yeah.
Do you see that a lot? Do you see that in business? People just scale their problems with them rather than or try and automate it or streamline it too late and it's a big mess or
Absolutely. So I can even internally here, we had that problem where we grew quite quickly. And so we always knew that we wanted to have our core business stuff run with a system. But typical like a mechanic, they have the worst cars. So we had pretty poor
yeah.
systems internally. We were always going to build one, but we're too busy delivering client work until we got too large and then tried to build it. And it was much more complicated, costly. I wish I did it at the very, very beginning, or at least started. And that's what we always tell clients as well is, or potential clients is you don't have to start with a massive transformation. Is start with something really small. And, classic examples, this happened to me like this week. So my executive assistant quit, got another job, which isn't a testament to anything about to do with me, just so you know, right? It was a better job. But yeah, so she quit. And so not the normal practice for a person would be like, well, better find a replacement, put a job out. But being a tech company and where we're focusing particularly is we look at more. So I know a staff member is a fair amount of cost. And so I look at the role that she performed and what she was doing. So can I actually do that a different way? And so I started we had some capacity in in our AI team. And so I just built a replacement of her, which is a robot basically. And so now I can just text, her name's Christy. So I can text Christy an email address and a phone number. And I'll just say, can you book a meeting with this person? And Christy will call that person's phone number. And she'll say, hey, Jason wants to have a meeting with you. When are you free? And you can talk to her just like you would a normal person. And you talk to her and she'd she'll be looking in my calendar and she'll book in the meeting and send the calendar invite. So that's a lot of that work is now can be done there. And it maybe would have cost me a few weeks of development effort. And I've got that there. And so now I can build on that. So I can say, what else can we get her to do? Book meeting rooms, whatever, like manage my LinkedIn. So I just start to build capacity. And why I'm saying this is it's around, you don't have to have perfect solution, like everything built in from the very beginning. You've just got one little problem, that one little bit that's just causing you a bit of pain. So you're like, I'll just fix that. You fix that, you get value from that. Potentially you're saving some costs or some efficiency. You go, okay, I've saved whatever, $5,000 a month. Why don't I invest that $5,000 back into this program of innovating and making stuff more efficient? So the more you do that, the more money you're saving. And so after a period of time, it can be a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're looking back and you're like, wow, I've really streamlined my business. And so you just constantly little bits by little bits. So going back to what you originally said, when is a good time to start? I'd say at the beginning, but you don't go overboard. It's like, if you're getting into racing, right? And you want a race car and you're starting in the Pee-wee division, you don't buy the Lamborghini, you just buy a little go-kart. You test it out. It's the same thing here. You're running your business, you don't need anything too fancy and too elaborate, but you still want to be working towards some efficiency. So you just do something small that's suitable for you and your size business. And as your business grows, you're continuing to reinvest in that and grow that. And I think one of the biggest mistakes is people worry that they make the wrong decision. And so that might have been true, in my lifetime. I'm quite old. We used to build and work on these massive software systems. They would take, 10 years to build and then you'd roll it out. And then to have the return on investment, they'd have to have that thing live for another 20 years. And then they finally, realize that value. It also took a long time for things to change. So, from when I was young to maybe like midway through my career, there wasn't too much change around the core fundamentals of how you built software or how you did that. Now, more recently, is you can have a programming language or a framework or something that's really helpful today, and you'd build some software on it. 2 years from now is probably redundant. It'll do something different. And so you've got to change people's mindsets to go, it's not actually forever, it's for now. So investing in something small, something not too expensive, that's going to solve a problem today without worrying too much, is it going to solve my problem for the next 10 years? Because if you ask a business owner in today's climate, what's your business going to be doing in 5 years? If they honestly told you, I think they'd be lying to you, because I can't see how you can predict that far ahead. And I felt that with our own businesses. I have enough trouble thinking about what it'll be like in 6 months from now, let alone in 5 years. And so there's no way I could build something that I would be useful to me in 5 years today. And it's just the reality of it. And so have in your mind that you want to constantly keep working on this and building on it as your business changes. You want your software and your processes to change with it. And to have that foundation, having your value stream as flexible as possible is super key to that. And so if you don't have this big off the shelf thing or this big behemoth of stuff that you can't really change, you're stuck doing stuff the way you were doing it all along. Whereas if you have something where you're adapting it as you go, when your business changes or the market changes or there's a fluctuation, you can quite easily pivot. You can go, well, we're going to do this other thing over here. And that could be totally different. And that's okay. And then you go, well, we'll just do some tweaks to this and then we're good to go and we'll keep going.
Oh, I get it. The business is a different landscape now. We have to be on our toes every
Mm.
day, every hour, every week for all the changes. I'm laughing at you saying there, the project development. So I've got a background in IT. I learned programming in Pascal. That's
Yeah,
how
me too.
I
Yeah. Yeah, Turbo Pascal, yep.
look what we were doing then, making the
Yep.
little but yeah, so time changes really, really fast, and you were on such a good roll there, but I wanted to take you back to when you said about Christie. It's like, stop, you just got the attention of every business owner in the whole of, Australia around that. That's phenomenal that you're
Mm,
able to just do that. And I just think that's amazing. It's very exciting because we're looking for a PA, right? And somebody
yeah.
tells me, well, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah, well, you think about how much an executive assistant or a PA would cost per year, and then times it by the number of years they're with you. And then the other thing is people forget about is humans are inherently like they're complicated. They get upset, they have issues going on at home, they get sick, they go on holidays. Robots don't. So they're there all the time, 24/7. They don't complain if you text them at midnight, they just get on and do the work. So there's heaps of upsides to that, especially being in WA, we have the payroll tax. So, one thing as a business owner, you employ somebody, you go plus super, plus payroll tax, plus the 50,000 subscriptions they have to be in your business. Before you know it, it's like a 20th of percent of the cost for the
yeah.
first year would probably be on building the robot. And then after that, it's marginal.
Well, in the next conversation, we'll do the first version of the app first, and then we'll look at
Mm,
the 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 additional support that we can have. But also back into what you were saying there around, just scalability. So even for us in our business, when you're talking about spreadsheets, right? Everybody I love spreadsheets, right? We run the business from spreadsheets, and they're great, but we just hit a ceiling where we thought, so we're getting ready franchise. We're just in the franchise recruitment phase. And we hit
mm,
that scale, but we cannot possibly franchise with the systems we've got. We just cannot scale. The
mhm,
manual time to take for guest lists and events and check-in and stuff, it was just a ceiling. Like if you don't automate, change, streamline, you just can't grow.
mm.
And full stop, because then the costs are going to be higher than the revenue that you were bringing in. It was just, yeah, you're just hitting a wall. So
Yep.
do people want to go and invest in an app or the initial investment? Probably not, but it
Mm.
takes a couple of weeks to see that return or that value
Yeah.
in there. So I think it's important for people
Like
who
the
are
hidden costs. It's like you made a really good point is you see the salaries you pay those people to do that work, but you largely you're measuring them on, what they're doing in the day to a degree. So if you've got an event coming up and then, the staff member will say, yep, for the next 4 days, I'm doing an event list, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You're like, great. And that's sort of largely factored in because that, you've got your cost for your services and you factored in their time and that's all covered. So you're okay. We don't actually go take a step back and go, all right, so if I automated all of that, even though, yeah, it's going to cost whatever, 50 grand, so to do that, then she can do something, he or she can do something else. And then does that add more value to your business? And so argument's sake, like if you did, in a smaller business, you probably, most people are multifaceted at different things. So, you're EA probably isn't like my one was she was the EA to board. She did board reporting. She also used to be a lawyer, so she could review legal documents. And then we've got her booking meetings. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, yeah, I've still got the cost if she's here, but I could be getting her to do more valuable work, which would actually drive the business forward. So in your case, you've got people filling stuff out in spreadsheets, and let's say, for argument's sake, that wastes 100 hours a month. That 100 hours could have been better spent on something more valuable that could drive your business forward even more. But you can't quantify that because you don't even know what that is because you don't have that capacity. And there's heaps of research that shows when you've got people, especially like more leaders or senior people in your business, if you give them some capacity to have like time where they're not, sitting there doing mundane tasks, or then they start thinking about like the more innovative, more strategic stuff in your business. Spend more time on relationships, spend more time on growth rather than on, repetitive tasks that don't add really any value.
Absolutely, you're answering a few of my questions all in the same stream here, which is fantastic. So when should people not be building apps? So we've looked at all the reasons why and when and the commercial viability and how to start small and grow big. But when should people not be
I
looking
think
at
that
it?
doesn't make sense. Like we're big believers in so I think there's a couple tips. One is if you go to a vendor, and I'm sorry if there's any vendors that listen to this stuff, but if you go to someone and they say to you, you need to install this specific thing or do this exact thing, it's because they're tied to getting you to buy into that thing because there's usually commissions or kickbacks. So it's important to get something independent. And so we don't have, it's a bit of a plug, but we don't have any specific like packages that we want people to go with. And that largely enables us to be giving you the most, I guess, honest and broad advice about what would be suitable for you. And there's been a heap of conversations. Like I had one recently where fairly large company in construction again, they had a system already that they spent millions putting in. And they were saying they hated it and whatever. And normally if you go to other people, they would say, oh, throw that away and install Salesforce or whatever, right? Where it's not really viable. So it's like if this particular thing you have is doing an okay job at this particular function, well then just leave it. Like it's fine. What's the actual problem here? And if the problem is, oh, my customers are not, this particular thing was like a time sheeting thing. So the application was a SAP application and it's not very customer friendly. And so they were getting a lot of pushback from people on construction sites. I have to fill out this thing. I've got to connect to a VPN. I've got to do all this stuff. It's very clunky. So they were like, well, people have been telling them, throw the system away and install this because it's got a better thing. Where our approach would be like, well, no, leave that there. What we'll do is we'll just build like an app or an interface sitting in front of it and make that look however you want, So make that really aesthetically pleasing, make that easy to use. And then we'll just build a little bit of an integration to push that data back into where it needs to be. That's a tiny piece of work compared to like replacing the whole thing. And that's better value for the customer. So we would say to them, just do that. You know what I mean? Like just start with that little thing. Other things, if they're really small businesses, might not make sense. Like we might just say, well, you've got one staff member, just keep it in Excel until you probably get to this point or you start making mistakes or, like you don't need a system now. And be honest about that. And so, yeah, I guess it really does depend on the individual circumstances of the business. And yeah, like to your point, like if you talk to me, I say a year before you started franchising, I would have said to you that, some of the most powerful things that you would have in your business is the data. And so if you currently don't have a system to collate all this and put it all in one place that you can report on it, then when you go to franchise this in a year from now, it's going to be very hard for you to do like an ROI without it being some manual process. Whereas if we built this now, you could have reporting out of the system you've done with your potential lawyers and partners and whatever to set that all up. It's quite easy to go, yeah, look, here's some reports. Here's all the courses we've run, all the people who've attended, their ages, and it just comes out of the system naturally versus you sitting there getting people to put that all together, which I'm sure wasn't an easy feat. So it's things like that.
Well, it's a much nicer value proposition now when I'm having a conversation with people, when I'm talking about the beautiful web app in the background and how we can manage things. It's a much nicer conversation than it would have been before. But I think that's the good thing about you guys, and I think people listening should also pay heed in this because it's very easy to go to any web app developer and somebody will build you an app, right? That's the easy part. What you where you guys are really good is you've got people in all different seats in systems analysis and business development, and you know, you could actually look at the solution from a business savvy point of view and come up with a solution that might not be the software or the new app. And I think that's important because I've
Yeah.
seen that personally in the network with small businesses. Oh, I'll build an app, I'll pop this up, da da da, and it's just a big fail, like a
Yeah.
lot of IT things can be.
Yeah, and you know why? Like it's not really the fault of those businesses. It's because it's how they're structured. So if you think about it, the people who usually build the apps are engineers. They don't run businesses. They're not people, and they don't spend the time, or they don't really have the desire to really understand what's going on for your business. They're like solutioners. You go, I have a problem, and if you say, I want an app, the biggest mistake. Never go to one of these companies and say, I want an app. You've got to go to them and say, I've got a problem that I want to solve, you see? But you go to a technical person like an engineer and say, I want an app and it's blue, you're getting the blue app. They don't really care why you want it or not. Essentially, like they don't go, why are you asking me for that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So in our structure, we have we call them delivery leads, and they're actually not technical at all. They come from different walks of life. Some of them were in insurance sales. We had one that was a chef. You know, we've had all different things, and so that they better understand because their job is really to put themselves in the client's shoes. So find out why they want it, what problem are they trying to solve, and then help the client understand that. Because the other trap that happens with that is you can help them understand that, okay, this is the problem and this is where we need to fix it. But then very quickly they start to get a bit excited and they're like, oh, I can add this and I can add that and I can add this and the next thing it's going to be awesome. But you know, with adding things comes cost. And so their job is also to bring them back to reality and say, look, let's just get the MVP bit out, the minimum viable product, the baseline to get you to solve this problem is just this. You don't need all this stuff right now. I'm not saying you can't have it, just saying let's get this out, get your people using it, because the biggest value then is asking your clients, do you like it? What else would you like to see? And then invest the time and money on that, because that's actually, is going to be useful. Whereas too often than not, we get involved a bit later sometimes when we take projects on from other people, or, a startup has done it overseas potentially, and it's come back and then they have 100 features. And I always ask the question, so who's using this platform? Oh, we haven't launched it yet. Okay, but you put 100 features. How do you know the 100 features are useful? Oh, we just think like our CTO said it will be good. No, no, there's no customer testing or anything. Where I would have gone build 2 features, release it, get some feedback, and then just build the features that people want. And so guaranteed, out of 100 features, you launch that, people will only use 20. So you just spend all that time building the other 80 that no one's ever going to use. Imagine if you use that time and energy to adding value to the other 2 to 4 features that people are actually using and you make them amazing, then you got a better app. And so
That's
that's something.
right. Don't build it and they will come.
Right,
We
yeah,
got people who want to use it. So yeah, and we have seen that. What about bot apps as well? You know, you buy it, it's got 150 features, and even our phones these days, you know, they're outgrowing us and the technology. I've got no idea what my phone does.
yeah.
So you know, there's a lot in there. But listen, just on that comment in earlier where you were talking about the AI and building a robot for your EA,
Mhm.
where do you see, I know this is a bit of a broad question, but where is AI going in business and tech? I mean, and you
Mhm.
can come from that in any angle you want.
Yeah,
It's a loaded question.
yeah. Well, I think if I answer it in the sense that, so first of all, say is like, in my view, it's just something that is going to make a lot of businesses operate differently and think differently in the future. Um, in the circles I am now, is people don't seem to think of it like that, which I find surprising. I have a pretty interesting view on it, and it might be a bit controversial, but anyway, so I think that, as a business owner myself, like, so I'll go back a bit. I went to I think it was like a seminar or workshop, and it was about, I think the topic was, is AI going to replace, you and your job?
Yeah.
And they had an exercise where they gave you a piece of paper and they asked you to close your eyes and you were to fold it. So they would say, fold it left to right, fold it top to bottom, left to right. Now tear the corner off. Now open your eyes and unfold it. And then if you look around the room, they're all different, right? Because You don't know which side is left and top and bottom. You just, whatever you think that is, you're doing that. So their whole thing is, this is the human race and this is how people can be innovative and creative. They've come up with 20, 50 different designs, right? And I get that. In art, for sure, it's important. But as a business owner, I don't want 20 different ways to deliver a service. I want one way, the right way, the way that makes money, the way that has a consistent and proper, value proposition and quality. So not 20 ways, just one way. You know what I mean? And so that doesn't appeal to me, right? And so, if I'm looking at that example and I'm saying, well, that doesn't really prove your case, because I would say, largely, if I could have a repeatable process that had a guaranteed margin that could deliver guaranteed results, that would be where I want to be. And so that is that sort of AI stuff. But I do also think that it's not magic, right? It doesn't, it can't really come up with use cases and, and innovative ways to take your business. Humans have to do that. And so I believe, down the track a little bit, you'd have more strategic thinking, you'd have more ideas and innovation and planning, less actual doing though. So anything to do with doing, I think would be replaced. And I think about it in my own business. So as you know, like we do software development, and so we have a process, and the process is largely like discovery with a client. So you sit down with that client, you understand their problems, and you work through that, you set goals. And then we used to give that documentation to a technical team, 3, 4 technical people, expensive, right? They would sit down and they would spend half a day going through each of those things and go, how do we solve it? How do we build it? How much would it cost? Then that goes back to sales, and sales puts it into a quote, and then that quote gets sent. Now, all of that is not billable work. And so in our business, we've gone, how do we automate all of that using AI? And so we've actually finished that part of it now, where we can, at the end of this month, we'll be able to have a client come in, or potential client come in, sit down and say, oh, I want X, Y, Z. And then at the end of that meeting, they will have an email with the quote, a roadmap for how to succeed it, as well as a working prototype of their idea. Mm. And so that's kind of game changing. And so for us internally, what I'm thinking is, I think we've got to be competing more with off the shelf stuff. So, where you largely can go and get a software subscription for $15 a month per user, it's a pretty easy sell because it doesn't cost that much. I'll just go with this. Versus, you're coming to a custom software company like ours and we're going, we'll build you this custom thing, but it's a few $100,000. And so that return is going to take a few years for you to, maybe 6 months, a year, whatever, for you to get that return. But what if I could build it for 50,000? Because all of a sudden I can automate a lot of this building and deployment. And so now you're comparing a fixed, inflexible, off-the-shelf solution that your competitors are all using, or something that's very specific to you, that's going to give you that competitive edge, and it's not going to break the bank balance. Game changing, right? And so strategically for me internally is about automating as much of it as possible to really reduce that cost, so I can actually compete more holistically outside of the market than we already are. And that actually does come with potentially having less junior staff, probably only really like seniors, reducing our headcount, automating a lot of our things. And yeah, there's if anyone's technical on there, there's already stuff out there like Terraform, which is a technology where you can create servers and in the cloud with firewalls, and we can spin up our workloads all automatically. And so with our AI integrations now, we can specify software with, an hour discussion with a client. You can specify a 3-month project to finite detail, and it's very accurate, and then from that, you can actually generate source code that is, at the moment, it needs a bit of work, but you can see it like 6 more months, a year from now, that will be amazing. Like, so in all these spaces, it's very emerging. But if you're not playing with it right now or trying to put it in your business, it's going to be too late, because people like me are going to come along. And if my competitors watch this, you're thinking about it, I'm already building it. And so by the time I'm finished, you're going to be charging 200,000, I'm going to be charging 50. Who's going to win all the work? It's going to be me. And then you have to close your business, and that'll be the end of that.
There you go. How to wipe out all your competitors.
Yeah, this isn't the goal of the business. I'm going to wipe them out, but I mean, like I want to grow the business. I want to build something, and yeah.
I think that's very exciting. You said that, you know, somebody walks out at the end of the meeting with a prototype. That's a sale right there, right?
Hope
That's
so.
brilliant. You know, instead of
Let
waiting
you know
to
when it's done.
back forward and round, that's very exciting.
Thanks.
You're laughing there.
Yeah, because I think like it's possible. It might make it sound better than it probably is just yet, but I know it's going to get there. So yeah,
But that's the life of a business owner, right? You got to paint the picture, build
that's
it, right?
yeah,
This is what we're doing.
yeah, exactly.
Jason, thanks very much. I think you've answered a lot of questions in there around, you know, why we should be thinking about it, how easy is it to make it viable, why we should be jumping on AI and tech anyway, whether, you know, just because we have to move with the times as business owners, we have to keep innovating, we have to keep ahead of the pack, we have to carve out competitive advantage to, you know, stay relevant and compete. So listen, we'll put all your contact details and everything on this video underneath, but what advice would you give to a business owner at the minute who's just thinking, all right, where do I start? What do I do? How long should I wait? You know,
Mhm.
what advice would you give someone who's sitting on the fence at the
Yeah.
minute?
Look, I think just reach out to the experts, whether it's me or somebody else. We don't charge to talk to you. Do you know what I mean? So if you want me to talk to you about your business and where it's at, I'll be more than happy to look at it and give you some advice. It's free. And then you can take it or leave it, but then at least you kind of know A, what's possible, what kind of things could be done. And then you can, if it's something you do want to do, you can plan that in. You can go, yep, maybe I'll do that in 2 years, but at least you're not sitting there going, I'm not sure what I would do or when I should start or what even some of the opportunities are for your business. Because that's the hardest thing is if we think about it, like we live and breathe this stuff every single day. Like we work on about 40 projects every month, all different things, all different industries. So we get to see all the people who are investing in that, who's at the forefront of this and what they're doing in that space. So that gives us really good intel about the kind of things that are possible. Just having a conversation, most people could go, yeah, well, these are all things that are possible that you could do. And then that feeds into you to go, yeah, I could see this working, and then go away and think about it and think about how that would transform your business and how that'll make it more efficient. And then yeah, if it's something you want to do, great. Like we're happy to help you or yeah. That's what I would do.
Contact details down below. And I think, you know, for me, when we started talking about this, it's just exciting. You
Mm.
come in, you talk to them, you talk to the experts, they tell you what to do, what not to do. You feel, you know, you feel held, and you said it earlier, it's like expertise. You feel as if, you know, I'm not going to make a mistake here. They've got my back there, but this is really, really exciting. You know,
Yeah,
and sometimes we need a bit of excitement in the day in the life of a business owner, right? We need
definitely.
the
Yeah.
next step. So look, Jason, thank you very much for sharing your time. It's been
Yeah.
brilliant to talk to you today. I'm going to share this around the network. I think it's important that people start looking at technology. I'm very techie. I think we should all be looking at it on ways to improve our business. And yeah, we'll put your contact details in the video so that people can get in contact with you. And then, yeah, we'll arrange a part 2 interview very soon. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lorraine.